Good morning. This is the JP Dinnell podcast, episode 80. I am JP Dinnell, and as always, I have Lucas with me. Forgiveness, grace, and redemption. March 30th, 2009, my life changed. My life changed in the absolute best way possible. My son, Hayden Dinnell, was born. I was 26 years old. This was amazing and crazy. I still remember getting that phone call from his mother, who had a very good relationship with. We were together dating. And I remember actually God preparing my heart the day before that call. I was driving back from Vegas, went out there to watch some UFC fights with Jocko and some other guys from Victory MMA. And there was a crazy, horrific accident where it shut down the interstate for legitimately as long as you could see. And I remember seeing that it was going to be a very, very long time. So I pulled my car off to the side of the freeway and I just went hiking. I've always been drawn to the outdoors and just the silence of being in nature, what God has created. And I remember just walking in these ravines in the middle of the desert. I just had that alone time to just think. I was thinking about Ramadi, Mikey, Mark, our guys that were wounded, our buddies from SEAL Team 5 that relieved us that had horrific injuries as well. You know, I've made a lot of mistakes in life. And unfortunately, I made a lot of mistakes as a new dad. Not at first. Everything was great at first. But I started to hurt people. I started to hurt the people around me and push people away. I did not know how to communicate. I did not know how to communicate what was going on, what I was feeling, what I was struggling with. I did not know that I needed help. And I didn't know what help I needed. And ultimately, it cost me. 100% on me. And it cost me 15 years. 15 years of not being in my son's life. 15 years that I'll never be able to get back. Forgiveness, grace, and redemption. And because of those three things, I have a second chance. A second chance at being in my son's life. In January, I was able to be reconnected with my son's mom. We had an incredible conversation that night. She was very, very respectful towards Amanda, our marriage, and our family. And after that call, she let Hayden know that we had connected and asked him if he wanted to be connected with me. And he said yes. A few days later, I was able to jump on a FaceTime call with Hayden. And we talked for the first time. And we talked for almost 2 hours. Man, he's a good kid. Like a really, really good kid. Reminds me of Aiden. Trains Jiu-Jitsu. Has a huge heart for others. Is a people pleaser, wants to take care of people, loves people, sees the best in people. And more importantly, loves the Lord. And I could not be more happy. 2 weeks later, I was going to be headed out to Southern California for a work trip. A work trip that I wasn't supposed to be on. And I had planned on bringing Amanda out there with me because from there I was going to go to Vegas for a work trip. And Amanda and I just needed a few days, just the two of us. And I didn't really know why all these things were coming together. But once I received the text message and the phone call and the call with Hayden, I knew. I knew it was God's forgiveness, grace, and redemption at play. And I asked him if he wanted to meet up in person and for him to meet myself and my wife. And he instantly said yes. So we met up at a Bass Pro Shop that he likes to go to. He's liked to go there ever since he was a little kid to play these shooting games. And if you've been listening to the podcast, you know a little bit about my background. You could only imagine how happy that made me feel. He knew about me, but he didn't know about me. And one of the things his mom told me was, he doesn't know anything about you. He knows you. He knows he has a father, but he doesn't know anything about you. He doesn't know anything bad. Nothing bad was ever said about you. And that was a huge relief. Because if we're looking back and being real, and from her perspective and her parents' perspective, I gave them every reason as to why they could have. But they chose not to. Because they're good humans. And they did what was best for their son and their grandson at that time. So I was excited to meet up at Bass Pro Shop. I was excited and nervous and scared. Was it going to actually happen? The devil tried to creep in. He told me it wasn't real. He told me that this was a setup to get back at me. He told me that they weren't going to show up, that something was going to happen, that it was not real. And I had to pray against that. Because that voice was loud. And it almost seemed real. Until I got a phone call from him. And he said, "Hey, Dad, we're on our way. Sorry we're running a little late." And asked where we were parked. So they park, and Amanda and I are walking over towards them. And I see him get out of the car with energy. And he's happy and excited. And he has a huge smile. Do I shake his hand? Do I hug him? I wanted to hug him, but I didn't know what he wanted. And he comes up and gives me the biggest hug. A genuine hug. A real, loving hug. And he brought Amanda flowers. And he went up and gave Amanda a huge hug, a very real and genuine loving hug. And I gave his mother a hug. I told her thank you. And Amanda was crying, and she was crying, and I was crying. He just had a huge smile on his face. Looking around at everybody, genuinely looking around at everybody to make sure everybody was okay. Because that's his heart. His mom and Amanda, they hug each other. They introduce each other. Took some pictures. And we decided to go inside. Because, we got to get to that shooting game. And we're playing the game. And I'm kind of easing into it. And then we ramp it up again. We ramp it up. He looks over at one point and he goes, "Wow, you're really good at the shooting game." And I just smiled. We did a little bit of shopping. He wanted us to get matching hats. And the ironic thing that I told his mom when he wanted us to get the matching Bass Pro hats is I usually make fun of adults that wear Bass Pro hats. Well, I got to eat those words. I must say, it's a pretty sweet hat. And we went outside and we were sitting in the parking lot just talking before we were going to go grab food. We got to see a SpaceX launch, which was pretty crazy to see in person. We went to dinner, had an incredible evening just talking. The next day I had my full day workshop. And after it was done, Amanda and I met him and his mom at his jiu-jitsu school to watch him train. It's a great gym, good people, good atmosphere. Man, it was such a good time just sitting and watching him train. Amanda and I love watching our kids train. And I know I've talked about this on this podcast before, but one of the rules I try to hold myself accountable to is staying off your phone. Staying off your phone when you're watching your kids do anything in life. And when I'm at jiu-jitsu, I don't want to miss them training. And so for me just to be present and Amanda to be present watching him train jiu-jitsu was incredible. And we got a few pictures of him training and a few videos of them working through drills. And one of the photos was him intently looking in and listening. And I just remember looking at the photo that Amanda took, and I was just like, it was so cool to see how intent he was at watching. Now, part of me was like, okay, cool, he's in the game because I'm watching, but it was who he was. He was very intense. He has solid jiu-jitsu. He has a really good, solid base, which made me happy. And I remember after this trip, we're going to fast forward. After this trip, I was showing some people from Double Five photos, and I was showing Robin and David the photo of him training, and Robin goes, "That's exactly what you do when you're watching instruction." And Amanda had said the same thing, and there's a few other people that caught it, but it was cool to see our close friends David and Robin like notice that attribute in my son. It was just cool to see other people happy and like noticing little things. And so after jiu-jitsu, he wanted us to come back to their house to see his room. He wanted to show us his room. And it was cool. He had some medals from training jiu-jitsu competitions and from running 5Ks and half marathons. He ran cross country and is still going to keep running cross country. And then we decided to go grab some pizza. Of course, if you're out in California or even now in the DFW area, you go grab Round Table Pizza.
Round Table, huh? You didn't go California Pizza Kitchen?
No, it's garbage.
Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome. after pizza, we came back to their house and just sat. We just sat and talked in his room. I sat on the bed with him while he was showing me and Amanda this pretty cool video game that he enjoys playing, Red Dead Redemption. It's a storyline type of video game.
It's an RPG.
Yes, RPG.
Role-playing game.
Yep, yeah. The graphics are pretty incredible.
It's wild.
And it was really cool to see how into it he was. I mean, he was like into that game.
Yeah.
And, you know, his mom, Amanda, and I just sat up in the room while he was talking to us about the game, showing us the game, and Amanda and his mom were sitting and talking, and it was awesome. And I did not want to leave. And I pushed it as late as I could. Still had to drive to Vegas. To be honest, I didn't care about that part. I knew my event wasn't until the next evening, so I had plenty of time, but it was late, and Amanda had to remind me probably 17 different times that he had school the next day and that we needed to let him get to bed. And leaving was so hard. And I remember as I sat in my rental outside the house with tears, Amanda simply told me, "You will see him again soon, babe." And she was right. And we'll get into that on this episode. Lucas, how are you, buddy?
Bro, I'm so excited that we're finally talking about this.
I know.
This has been a month-long journey, and like we've talked around it.
Yeah.
Particularly when I was working on my 6th place in the world ranking at the Jiu-Jitsu World League tournament.
Yeah.
For those who haven't listened to those episodes, I did come in 6th out of 6. And one of his coaches was there. Mm-hmm. And
one of his coaches runs Jiu-Jitsu World League.
Yeah, and so we got to have like a brief little interaction with him. You kind of told me who he was, and we mentioned him on that episode, and we were like, yeah, there's a guy who was there, and we'll, if you go back and listen to it, you say, we'll get into some of that stuff at some point. And it's like there are so many of these connections within just the jiu-jitsu world and all the other things that we've got going on, that all these crazy touch points. And anytime we've gotten close to it, it's been like, and we won't talk about that just yet as we're trying to, or as you guys are trying to figure things out. And those of us who are back home are just getting pictures and praying about it and just asking for God to just show up and help build those relationships. And now that we're finally getting to talk about it, man, I'm so stoked.
Bro.
This is so cool.
Yeah, it is.
And I cannot wait to get to meet him.
Oh yeah.
Right?
It's going to happen.
Yeah. He looks like just an absolute unit, man. It's awesome.
Good kid. So
that's what I'm excited.
You're excited.
Yeah, I'm just excited.
Yeah. It was just the whole thing has been a lot to work through.
Yeah.
You know? And you know, I this last weekend I spoke at a men's retreat up in Santa Cruz. Mm-hmm. And I added a brief version of this story to what I was talking about, to talk about forgiveness, grace, and redemption, you know? And the other aspect, and we can get into this on a future episode, but my main theme on this talk at this men's retreat on my last session with them was we're not supposed to do this alone. Like, we're not supposed to be doing life alone and being, you know, that's, and so I was able to use that story as a beacon of hope for these men.
Yeah.
You know, men that were divorced and men that had bad relationships with their kids or no relationships with their kids. Because statistically, you're going to have all of those within a group.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and so I wanted it as a beacon of hope, but then also for them to understand, man, you got to put in the work though. And, you know, while the timing will always be something that will slightly frustrate me, not frustrated with anybody other than just myself, right? And just always wonder, God, why? But I also, if I step back and I just look at it from a different angle, I'm like, okay, well, I put in the work and grown spiritually, and you know, I'm at a point where I feel like I can handle all of these things properly.
Yeah.
And I'm just very thankful for his mom and the young man that she raised. I was talking with a buddy. He's like, bro, you are so blessed. I'm like, I know. He goes, because it could have been one of those, hey, your kid's all messed up on drugs, come fix them.
Yeah.
Or, it could have been so many different things, and it wasn't. And Amanda and I have talked about that so many times, about how just good of a kid he is and how great of a job his mom did raising him. And it's really cool to have that friendship being established again with her, and to see her and Amanda have a friendship being established. And she's just so genuine with just wanting the best for Hayden. Like, that's the thing. It's like, hey, at the end of the day, it's like whatever is best for Hayden, that's what we're doing. But genuinely wants us to have a friendship and that relationship for us as we're now all raising Hayden together.
Yeah.
And which is so rare. I mean,
yeah, man,
bro, it's crazy how rare that is. I've talked about this before. Like, even when Amanda and I were divorced, she never used the kids against me. She never leveraged them against me. She didn't play any games. And now that I'm reconnected with Hayden and his mom, like, she's not leveraging anything. There's no like angles. It's just, hey, I want you to be in his life if you want to. And it's like, of course. Yeah, absolutely. I could not want anything more in my life right now. And I'm just so thankful for the softening of my heart that God has done. The 2 weeks leading up to that text message, almost every single time I was reading the Bible or doing a Bible study or talking with different like guys about stuff, it was always Lucas being brought back to forgiveness.
Really?
Every single one. And I remember even going, all right, Lord, what are you trying to show me? Like, what do I need to, because here's the thing, there's been times where I've been reading the Bible before and like something stands out. And I'm like, all right, Lord, what are you highlighting to me? And I've been working with one of the pastors from our church, Pastor Chris Lerma, who was on the backpacking trip with all of us, just mighty man of God. And we were on a call, and, we've talked about this a few times about how, like, I believe I always mix up my names in the Bible. You know this, but David was saying, Lord, show me my wicked ways, expose my wicked ways.
Yeah.
Well, that's been a big focus of mine lately, is like, Lord, like, show me, like, show me, what do I need to work on?
Search my heart, know my thoughts. If there's find any offensive way within me. And
yes. Well, it's also, which is great to do, just FYI, if all of a sudden, like, so if you're genuine at that and you're praying that and you're seeking that, stand by for what gets exposed.
No doubt.
Just saying, because I was like, even like, man, I'm having all these spiritual attacks and I feel like heavy and all this stuff. Like, man, all these things keep being brought to light. And then I was like, wait, hold on. That's what I've been praying.
Yeah.
And these things are coming to light. It doesn't mean that these are attacks. These are things that I need to address and or have been addressed. And I just need to make sure that we don't go down that, and so it's been great. It's been a great process. And, and the other thing that he's been heavy with me on is like, hey, when you're not consulting with Amanda and or making decisions with her and talking through stuff, he's like, you're cutting off half of your wisdom. And it was really cool to see all these things preparing me for that reconnection and that text message and that phone call. And because the whole time it's been including Amanda and everything, which most of the time I would have just tried to like handle it all on my own. Not because I don't trust Amanda or I don't want her involved in it, but sometimes I do that because I'm trying to protect them and or not put extra like weight on like what she's already carrying. And so it's just these simple little reminders and or things that have been exposed. Has been really cool to see how like God was posturing my heart or softening my heart and helping with my heart posture towards the whole situation. And man, it's been so good. And so I had that trip out to California and he met Amanda and the whole thing was so cool. And dude, we didn't get into Vegas until 3:30 in the morning.
Good grief. What time was your event?
It was until the next evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got a little bit of nap time, but still, dude, that's a boring drive overnight.
Dude, that drive during the day is horrible. At night, it's even worse. And so I knew we were going to be getting in there late. And so I called the hotel and told them, like, hey, here's my confirmation number. I'm getting in around this time, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, hey, good to go. We'll have you like checked in, blah, blah, blah. We get there and they gave away a room.
What?
Yeah.
And no.
I was just like, hey, I called and I worked through all this stuff. And I'm using like, okay, slow escalation. And finally got to the point, I'm like, hey, so this company, this is who I'm here with. And they're like, okay. They're like, yeah, but you know, well, I'm like, no. Like, they rented out your guys' conference ballroom. Yeah. And they have this hotel room block. I'm their keynote speaker that they're bringing in. They paid for this room. They paid for all this stuff. It was confirmed. You guys need to find me a new room, because they're like, oh, we can bring you to offsite to another location. I was like, I have to be here, which at the end of the day, like, okay, cool. Bring me offsite. Like,
yeah.
Big. But they were like trying to be like, oh, you know, it's going to be a couple hours till we can get your room. I'm like, no, I need a room. I'm like, hey, can I please talk to your manager? I was like, you've been helping me. This has been awesome. And I'm like trying to like escalate it. But Amanda's also like she keeps putting her hand on my back or shoulder occasionally just to kind of like, hey, let's make sure.
Yeah.
Because it's now 4:15 in the morning.
And you have just been through the breadth of emotions, like the emotional highs and lows that you just experienced, and now you're in a frustrating situation. And pretty intense.
Up for almost now at 24 hours at this point. We're getting close to it. And I'm just like...
And you're trying not to be a Karen.
Yeah. But I'm also like, hey,
get your crap together.
I have a room here. And so they ended up talking to somebody else, and we got put into a suite and took care of everything. And but
did you get a microwave?
Dude, this place, Amanda and I were like, oh my gosh. It was bigger, probably double the square footage of the house that we lived in Mississippi.
No way. That's rad.
It was crazy.
Those are cool.
It was crazy. But anyway, so that was a long drive afterwards and tired, but it was just well worth it and everything. And but then a week later, I was going to be in the same area. Yeah. Not as close, not 20 minutes away, but I was going to be about like 35 minutes away for an FTX. Right. And so I flew out early. Well, not early, like when I normally would have flown out there, but earlier in the day, so I could drive to go see him and train jiu-jitsu with them.
That's cool.
And met some awesome guys at his gym. Yeah. We were like,
and it was no-gi day, if I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. That was rough. That was real rough. But it was cool, like meeting guys at the gym, and like guys were like, I just, introduced myself. I'm like, I'm JP, and a few of them were like, what's your last name? I'm like, Dinnell. They're like, what are you doing here? And like, they, know me from Jocko's podcast. A few of them listen to this podcast as well now. And it was kind of crazy, like having that connection. And I was like, oh, my son. And they're like, wait, what? And I was like, new situation. And they're like, oh, cool. And all of them were like, oh my God, definitely not the time, Right. I just told everybody, I was like, hey, I just got reconnected with my son a few weeks ago, and I'm just thankful to be able to be in his life, and he trains here. And they're like, who's your son? I'm like, Hayden. They're like, bro, that dude is awesome. And like a lot of guys were like, dude, he is such a polite kid. He's a great kid. Yeah, and it was just like really cool to hear all these things and meet some other guys that knew who we were and listen to the podcast, listen to Jocko's podcast, follow Echelon Front. They're in the game, Go train jiu-jitsu. And one of Hayden's best friends, his name is Bear. His dad, Nate, former Marine, college wrestler, trains Muay Thai, MMA, black belt in jiu-jitsu. And so I met him.
There's a real cream puff of a guy.
Bro, he is. He's a problem. Yeah. In a good way. I met him the first time Amanda and I were there. And then now that we're there training in his no-gi, and I'm like, no-gi, oh man. And so anyways, we were training, and him and I were drilling together, and he's awesome. Yeah. Awesome instructor. And then when we rolled, he whooped the living out of me.
Really?
Dude, I mean, it was...
No-gi's a totally different game, man.
Yeah.
It is.
And then some young, like, blue belt from Brazil, freaking, that was a fun round.
Yep.
caught me a straight ankle lock, and I was just like, no, we're good. We're working. And then I was like, all right, I got to tap on this one. And then he said something along the lines of like, why you wait so long? It's going to break. And I'm like, no, we're good.
Yeah.
But dude, he like, you know, his jiu-jitsu was so sick. And yeah, so I just got wrecked, which is cool.
That's good.
It's always fun to get wrecked at a different gym that you're like cross-training at. No gi. Gross.
Yeah.
But
you know, Chief Randy was just talking about no gi.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was saying, and I thought this was interesting. I don't want to get us too far off topic, but that like when you guys were in battle, that a lot of the guys that y'all would encounter in like close quarters would be like shirtless and really difficult to get a hold of. And so he was like, you know, it was important for me to train no gi because I had to know how to grab them. He's like, but it was really important for me to train gi too because I'm covered in straps. Mm-hmm. And so that if like somebody grabbed a hold of me, I better have an answer to get out of it.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah. When you're rolling in your gear, I mean, it's easy to grab onto, and you know,
that never crossed my mind though.
Yeah.
But now that I'm thinking about you training no-gi, I thought it was. Well,
I never encountered anybody without shirts. It was they all were clothed, and you know, it's you're able to use that to your advantage when you're grabbing guys. But yeah, I mean, what he's saying, it's a valid point. So
yeah, that's
something to think about. Yeah, and so. But anyways, it was good jiu-jitsu. Then we went to dinner.
I just loved the pictures from the no-gi training. You in your gi pants
you
and
could
a
just
rash
tell
guard.
I was so pissed off.
Smoked.
So pissed off. I was pissed off because I was doing no-gi in jiu-jitsu pants.
Yep.
I'm not a fan of that.
No.
I get it. Cool. But it just showed like I was not. I didn't look at the schedule ahead of time. I didn't think it was no-gi. But anyways, whatever. So we go train, and then we grab food afterwards and went back to the house, and then we sat and watched Cobra Kai.
Nice.
And Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
Those are two of his shows he's been watching a lot of.
Right on.
Gotta watch those with him. And then got back to the hotel pretty late. But again, well worth it, right? Losing sleep, but gaining time. Just trying to buy back a little bit of time.
Yeah, man.
Actually, not buy back time. You can't do that.
No.
You can't do anything with time other than make the most of it. So that's all I was trying to do.
Sounds like you did.
And it was good. And the next day, full day FTX, and then client dinner with Champion Electric. Cool. Great company in Southern California. Like they are in the game. They did a 2-day FTX with us.
Ooh,
with their people.
Yeah.
And I already know you're gonna love this, but I had a place in my heart for this. They used some of the spots available for the FTX to bring out the staff of their church.
Really?
Yeah, his pastor and
cool.
some of his executive team.
Leadership staff, yeah.
Yeah, got to come to the 2-day FTX.
Yeah. There you go.
Which, pretty cool.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
A lot of valuable leadership lessons that are learned in an FTX.
It was so incredible, man. A great group of people.
Yep.
But it was awesome because Friday morning, Justine, his mom, met me halfway because I was going to come pick him up. Mm-hmm. And she's like, no, I can bring him to you. I was like, well, no, that's way out of your way. And you have all the way back to work and everything. You're talking a 50-minute drive one way. And in Southern California, Rancho Cucamonga, Rancho Bernardo, San Bernardino County area, that traffic can turn.
It's insane.
Like it's bad.
Yeah.
It can be bad. So anyways, she met me halfway with them. Boom. And he got to come be a role player for the day and
That's
work
rad.
with the team. Met Josh, Jesse, Aaron Coulter, and a few the other guys. And
a bunch of studs.
Oh yeah. Cowie was there.
Nice.
One of Jesse's SWAT guys was there as well.
That's cool.
And I mean, it was just incredible. So for him to be around that, right. And just be a part of it and then watch the training. And it was cool after we got done with the day. I mean, and he's just like a hybrid blend of Aiden and Cora and Nola, which is so crazy.
That's wild.
It's crazy. Amanda was talking to the girls about that last night when we got back because they're, of course, asking all these questions. And she was like, he's honestly just like a combo of all of you guys. And, of course, the girls were like, well, like what parts? And what about me? And blah, blah, blah. And about Bubba. And, so we were explaining the Aiden side. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's definitely. And it was really cool. But at the end of the day, we were talking. And we were driving back, and I'm like, hey, so what'd you think? He's like, man, that was incredible. He really loves paintball. He's like really into paintball.
Yeah.
And he was telling me these things that like he does that just make sense while he's playing. And I'm like, hey, so that's like called cover and move. It's a gunfighting tactic I used to teach SEALs.
Yeah.
That I was taught, like what you did, because he didn't know about this.
Right.
But to him, it made sense for him and his buddy were in this position and they were trying to move on these guys, but they couldn't. So he told his buddy, he's like, hey, just keep shooting and I'm going to move around and flank their side. And it was just like, and he's like talking to me, telling me about all these things. And I'm like, yeah, that's called this and that's this. He's like, oh. He's like, that's cool. He's like, it just, like some of these things, like I'd watch people do it. And I'm like, that just seems wrong. And some of these things seem right. And it was just like his awareness of tactics was very impressive.
That's cool,
like,
man.
Very, very. And even the guys on the FTX team were like, Apple didn't fall far from the tree on this one.
Yep.
It was really cool to see him like shooting and moving and just like with the guys. Did better than some adults we've had, to be honest. Jesse was just like, hey, just saying, some of the guys we've had out, he did better than them.
That's cool.
But it was cool on the drive home. He showed me his phone. I was like, because we were talking about it. And he had notes from every single one of the debriefs that he sat in.
Really?
He was just taking notes.
Sharp kid.
Yeah, so it was cool. That was a great trip.
Yeah.
That night, got to go out to dinner. You know, had him come to dinner with the FTX team, and he's just sitting at the table with, you know, guys like Cowie and Jesse Rembert and Josh and this other SWAT guy that Jesse had out, and it was just incredible. It was cool just seeing him get to like listen. You know, it's the same thing when Aiden's come and helped on FTX. Is like having that exposure.
Right.
Is really cool.
Yeah, just having them in that environment around that caliber of human being, especially, you know, knowing that those are the guys that are influencing your kids, got to be pretty cool.
Yeah. And so dropped him off, got to hang out for a while, and it was the same thing. I was like, I don't want to leave. You know, and him and I were just sitting downstairs watching TV, and his mom was doing her thing. I think she was doing laundry or whatever she said upstairs. And so him and I were like both kind of just sat, just watching TV, talking until we were both kind of like dozing. And I was like, man, I have like a 40-something, it was like 50-minute drive with no traffic. Yeah. And so I was like, hey, bud, you know, I'll see you soon. Love you, man. Miss you. I'm going to miss you. Appreciate you. And so we were just like talking through everything. Yeah, it was pretty cool how that all worked out. And then, you know, I was just trying to figure out, okay, hey, when am I going to get to see him again? Trying to work through all that. And then I had that opportunities to share my testimony at this men's retreat and talk through a few things, a few messages with this men's retreat. And it was just great to be able to see him. I flew to LA on Thursday and drove over and surprised him. Got in late, and I was texting his mom. I was like, hey, I have the opportunity where I can either see him tonight and or tomorrow morning. If you want, I can pick him up if it helps out, you know. And I was like, you know, I have some calls, and then I got to get on the road. And she's like, we're night owls, so, I mean, he's still awake if you want to come by. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I like head straight there. Yeah. And I got there like at 11:30, and she's like, do you want me to have him like answer the door? Do you want to surprise? I'm like, oh, I'll sneak into his room. And so she came, let me in, and I snuck in, and his door was closed. Yeah. And he was, you know, so I open up the door like fast. Well, I don't slam it open, but I open it up to catch his attention. And he's sitting on the bed watching Netflix. He's watching Peaky Blinders, and he looks over at me, and he's like, Dad, oh, you're actually, yeah. He just like jumps off the bed, comes up and gives me a big hug. And it was like the greatest thing ever.
That's so cool.
And so we sat for about an hour just talking. And it was cool. He was just like, so like, what do you want to talk about? Or what do you want to watch? I'm like, bud, we can do whatever you want. I don't care. I just want to see you, just want to hang out. And it was really cool just getting to spend that time with him. And again, you know, Justine sat at the doorway and kind of talked about just like what his schedule was going to be and everything else like that for his birthday, because it was his birthday weekend. And, you know, we just sat and talked through some stuff. And then, you know, she went off to bed, and him and I sat and talked for a while. And then I left and went back to the hotel, and I was like, all right, you know, went to bed, talked to Amanda the next morning. You know, he texts me, you know, every morning, good morning. How are you, Dad? Hope you have a great day. You know, we talked throughout the day, and text messages and phone calls. And so So I drive up to Santa Cruz and talk with that men's retreat on Friday night, and then Saturday morning and Saturday evening, and it was incredible. Like the guys that I met at this event and what this church was doing, and it was pretty cool to. I wouldn't call them sermons, but to have some like messages that I kind of was able to put together. I don't like the way you're looking at me right now, but just some conversations to be able to have with guys about faith and their walk and as men, what we should be doing. And it was really cool, like really cool opportunity. And I told the guy who was running the event, the pastor, I was like, hey, here's the deal. It's my son's 16th birthday tomorrow. I've got to get all the way back down there. I was like, I know this is our original set time to talk in the evening. Is there any way we can shift to the left a little bit, or I could talk before dinner? I was like, and I told him beforehand, I'm like, hey, I said, hey, as a pastor, have you ever gone to your team or your staff or your family, you know, as a father and a dad, and you're like, hey, I don't care, and you really don't care, and you lay out something? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, and you really don't care, you just kind of giving options? He goes, yeah. I'm like, okay, I have one of those situations. He's like, cool, what do you got? And so I wanted him to also know that, like, hey, I'm honoring your event. Like, if you want me talking at this time,
we'll do it.
I will do it. But I just presented, I'm like, hey, is there any way I could talk earlier before dinner? That way it gives Pastor Ben more time to talk on the back end, you know, and then, you know, he has that extra time on the back end, and then it gives guys free time in the evening before you guys go to your next thing. And I was like, because then it would help me get back to the hotel instead of having to drive through the night. And, you know, I also shared with them my health issues that I've been, you know, working
struggling with since the head injury.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation about all the things that is now exposed that were like, oh, you were also dealing with these other things that somehow is being masked. Right. But, and when I told him all that, he was like, done, easy. He's like, what about this time? I'm like, that would be incredible. I wasn't expecting that early. I'm like, that would be incredible. Thank you. And so then we announced it to the group.
Made the shift.
And made the shift. And it was really cool because immediately, like, two of the guys were like, hey, stay up there. We're going to pray. And like the whole group, so 60 guys came in and prayed over me.
That's cool.
Yeah. And these two guys that were praying, you could feel the power of their prayers. I mean, just mighty men of God. And that was a really cool experience. And then drove back down. Amanda flew out on Saturday.
That's cool.
So this was on Saturday. So she flew out, got an Uber to the hotel. I get down to the hotel, and then Sunday was Hayden's birthday, and so they were going to church. And so Amanda and I we stayed at the hotel. We're going to watch the plan was for us to watch our online version of our church.
Yeah.
So that way we were at the hotel getting ready and just kind of standing by. And then we went and grabbed some brunch and went by REI, and because he'd been wanting like a new mountain bike. And so went by REI, got him a mountain bike.
Nice.
And then went to the house. And by the time all that was going on, they were getting back and sat and talked and worked through some logistical problems for the party. We'll just say that, right? Just kind of coordinating different stuff. And, you know, a 16-year-old, like, hey, did you say these things to your friends? Did you communicate these things? And I'm just chuckling. And I'm like, oh, we weren't the only ones. And we're not the only ones.
Some of those problems are universal in childhood development.
100%.
Yeah. I'm lucky that I married someone who knows where all those benchmarks are, so that whenever we hit one and I have to have the conversation of like, is there something wrong with our child? She's like, no, this is developmentally appropriate and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, cool. That's all I need to know is that there's nothing wrong with him, that this is, we're on par for where we're supposed to be. Because like kids do stuff that you don't expect, or they do things that you expect them to. Let's say there are some things that they just don't have an aptitude for the first time they try them that seem like they're pretty simple tasks, and when they can't do it, that especially as a dad, you look at your child and you're like, oh my gosh, like what's it gonna cost us to get this fixed? And she's like, no, that's developmentally, this is right where they're supposed to be. And I'm like, okay, cool. Just
So we grabbed, we worked through some stuff, and it was really cool to see how his mom navigated it. Obviously, like I said, no it was no shock to me because of how well she's raised him.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, obviously she knows how to communicate and she's working through these things,
Right.
but she's also letting him. And there's a few times it was kind of cool, not kind of cool. It was really cool.
Yeah.
There's a few times she goes, ask your dad. Ask your dad. He'll either support this or correct me. And I was like, hey, bud, your mom's right. And then she goes, ask Amanda.
Really?
I'm
That's
telling
wild,
you,
man.
she's very genuine with
Yeah.
like, and to see her and Amanda like connect and again, this is a new relationship for them and friendship and overcoming obstacles and boundaries on both sides.
Yeah. This is a bizarre mix of dynamics that has just been like thrown
Yeah.
into y'all's life, and the way that you guys are navigating it is really awesome.
You know what's cool though? No drama.
That's so rare, man.
So far, no drama. And I say so far because there will be. That's life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there are going to be things that come up and that happen, and yeah.
Yeah, but there doesn't have to be drama that lingers. That's a choice. But there's been none. It's been incredible. Like, it's just been so cool. And it was just like really cool for her to be like, ask your dad.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, hey, bud, she's not wrong. She's right. And then like, ask Amanda, it was just like all doing that. And there, she brought up one. Amanda and I were dying. I was dying laughing. She was sharing the story. And she goes, I already know it's going to be 3 hard no's from us. It was something that his friend was just like, hey, can, Hayden should be able to do this. And she was like, no, absolutely not. And then, but how she instantly was like, Amanda and I were included in that. She goes, oh, I already know it's going to be 3 hard no's. And I was like, you're not wrong. Yeah. You're not wrong on that one. But so we leave, take Hayden, just Amanda and I and Hayden, we went and grabbed lunch, and really good place, and just had good food, good conversations, and we were talking about like, hey, what do you want for dessert? What's your favorite type of ice cream? He's like, mint chocolate chip, and I'm like, what,
bro,
my man? Mm-hmm. You already know.
Yep.
And man, it was a good day. We just ran some errands and grabbed some stuff to bring back to the house, and his friends started showing up, and man, it was just a great day. And his Justine's aunts were in town, and so I had met one of them a long time ago, 16 years, ish ago, and so it was good to see her. And I met the other aunt, and I mean, it was just great. It was just everybody was just hanging out, So her mom and her two, so his grandmother and his 2 great aunts, Justine's mom and 2 aunts were there, and then her dad showed up, and Bear's dad, Nate, was there. He dropped off Bear and he hung out, which was great, just us being able to kind of just sit and talk. And man, it was just a great day, man. It was just a great day, and everyone was just having fun and enjoying each other's presence and good conversations. And his friends are freaking straight knuckleheads in a good way.
As they're supposed to be, right?
Yeah,
they're 16-year-old boys.
15, 16, 17-year-old kids. They're just, at one point they're in the backyard like in a shin kicking contest with each other. I'm just like, oh my
terrible
God. Yeah, I was like, bro, gosh, like, but again, like
that's the kind of stuff you do.
They're just practicing kicking each other, like they're doing Muay Thai, but it's just straight up like turning into like just straight shin kicks. And I'm like,
That hurts. That hurts to think about.
Dude, some of these shin kicks, you just hear the like just the thud, and I'm just like, and I look over at Nate, and he's like, they'll learn, like,
Yeah, but this is how you learn, right?
Yeah,
you do that. That's the age at which I first heard the phrase that if you boys had a brain, you would just take it out and play with it. That is
probably accurate,
So, but that's awesome, man.
It was good. Just watch boys being boys, right? Just having them, just have a good time, and they run upstairs. They're up in his room playing air hockey, just kind of like doing whatever. And then like play fighting, right? You're like, what are you? I'm like, what? I remember a few times I went up there. I'm like, what is going on?
What is happening? Yeah.
Just 6 boys just literally all fighting each other in the dark. Like all lights out, blinds down, just fighting. You just hear just random, just just like thuds and like I'm like,
as long as you're not breaking any of the furniture, we're okay.
Or bones, but yeah. Furniture,
I mean,
yeah.
Depending on what your copay is, bones are less expensive than some furniture. So
That's true. But also...
And it's a more valuable lesson.
Yeah, that's true. So I go back downstairs a few times. I'm like, dude, I'm just... Could not be more happy.
Yeah.
You know, just the whole thing is amazing.
It brings back so many of those memories of when you were that
Yes,
age and
yeah.
jacking around with your friends and doing all
And
that
even
kind of stuff.
when Aiden was that age.
Yeah,
Because
for
he's
sure.
kind of out of that phase now.
Yeah.
Now that he's 19, you're like...
He's becoming an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
not-
mean, him
not
and his
just
buddies
legally, but
will...
like-
They'll play fight. You know, if he has
Yeah.
buddies over for the UFC fights, but it's more of like Jiu-Jitsu,
Uh-huh.
you know, working through it. But they're not playfully fighting anymore, if
Yep.
that makes sense. They're not 15, 16-year-olds just having fun.
Just
like,
scuffling anymore for a scuffle.
it's crazy to see the shift.
No, dude, it changes.
It reminded me, I didn't notice it until I was watching how Hayden and his friends played.
Yep.
And I was like, oh.
Yeah, there's that weird point in development, like right at the height of puberty, where all of a sudden like scuffling and stuff like that is no longer just a fun thing, where it's like it's a challenge.
Yeah.
And then it goes, you know, it gets escalated really quickly.
And it's funny, I could see that in Hayden a few times as well. Like his face and how things would like, all of a sudden it would like click and it would turn on because I'd seen him play fight with his friends. And there's a few times I saw it happen and I'm like, And it was really cool. It was like he looked around for me to see if I was watching.
Uh-huh.
And then I could see, but it wasn't just like a hey smile. It was like he was looked with intense, and I was just like, I remember one time I gave him the head nod. I'm like,
Get after it.
do it, do it, finish him. So that night we went to the movies, and Amanda and I got to take all the boys to the movies. While Justine's like, hey, do you care if I don't go? She's like, I was just gonna drop them off, but I just little time, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, for sure, yeah. And so Amanda and I took them all to see the Captain America movie,
Nice.
which I enjoyed.
Yeah.
But it was
Harrison Ford as the Red Hulk.
that was pretty crazy, bro.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
you
damn
just
it.
ruined it for everybody that hasn't seen it.
Well, it's in all the previews. It's in all the
Oh,
trailers.
I
Him as
never
the Red
watched
Hulk.
any of the
Yeah.
previews, so
Yeah.
I didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah. It was
I started to see.
rad.
I was like, "Oh wait, I see what's happening here," and then it happened, and I was like, "I hit Amanda." I'm like, "I know it." Okay, who cares? I think I said that.
It's
I don't know.
such a
That whole day and night was a blur, but man, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. The boys just had an absolute blast.
yeah.
You know, and of course we told them like, hey, whatever you guys want, like snacks, food, like, hey, it's Hayden's birthday, it's our gift, like we're doing this for you guys. And they're like, no, we're good. I'm like, no, seriously, boys, like, come on, like and it's crazy. Like Amanda and I had to like tell these kids, like, hey, do you want something to drink? Oh, I don't know. Do you want a slushie? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Like super polite, reserved kids.
Yeah.
Like we had to. This was crazy. We had to like force them to get slushies or the Slurpees, you know,
Yeah.
popcorn, candy, and like we're having like, hey, no, seriously, we're
Get something
good.
with red dye in it.
Yeah. Get it while you can. And but you know, they had a blast. They had just it was so funny. You know,
That's
that
cool, man.
Bean Boozle game where
Yeah.
ooh,
Yeah,
I got
the
roped
jelly
into
bu-
that
I
one.
s-
That
I
was
saw that.
disgusting. Dude.
What was the flavor that you got? It was either peach or vomit. That
Yeah.
was yours? Yeah.
Yeah.
You did not get peach, did you?
No.
Yeah.
I did not. But so Hayden put all of them into a Ziploc bag and
Oh,
brought them with him
no.
to the movies. And would just randomly like, hey, here you guys go. And his buddies, you'd hear them go, oh, okay. And the next one like, like trying
Just
to,
right in the middle of the
just
movie.
try- the movie just
So
the
jacked
random. Dude. The fact that he did that to his friends, I was just
Yeah.
like dying laughing. His friends are such good kids. Man and I were just a few times like in tears, like some of the things his friends would say. I'm just like, his buddy Daniel is hilarious. This kid, I'm just like, all right, dude. He's like a Chris Farley type of
yeah.
like just type of
Just that
vibe.
kind of energy.
Yeah, the energy
Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, great time. And then we dropped off all the boys at different places and went back to the house and we sat and talked for like another hour. And it was just like, all right, I was like, hey, I have an early call tomorrow, you know, need to get going. And so on the way back to the hotel, we just kind of talked about everything. And then, I had my call the next morning. Rob Jones and I had a pre-event call. So that was a good call. And then
How is Rob?
He's doing good.
Yeah.
He's doing good.
I need to text him.
I know.
He's a He's a good dude. The last time we talked, he was trying to get me to rope you into doing a marathon.
A marathon?
Yeah. He's trying to convince me to just shoot you a you in or you out message and then make you do a marathon. Which I'm not above, but I gotta get over all of my my trauma from the last are you in or you out before I initiate one.
Cool, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Figured you'd be fine with it.
Yeah. So where were we at? Dropped everybody off, hung out. The next day I had my calls, and then we met for brunch. So his mom brought him near us so that we could meet for brunch, because I had a little limited time window in between work calls and everything. And then I had brunch, and it was awesome. Again, one of those things where like you didn't want to leave, and I was like, you know, and then raced back to the hotel and jumped on Zoom for my pre-event calls, and then went to the airport and flew out. And it was so sweet. He was like, hey, Daniel wants to know your cell phone number because he wants to Venmo you for last night. And I'm like, no, like, what? No, we're good. I promise. And Justine was so funny. She's like, do not give your dad's number to any of your friends.
That's Daniel's like low-key way of trying to get your phone number. He wasn't going to Venmo you anything.
If that's the case, I'm good with Daniel having my number.
Yeah.
Like I said, that
That's
kid
funny.
is freaking hilarious. But, dude, all of Hayden's friends are just incredible young men. His mom has done a phenomenal job raising him, and so have his grandparents. And what's crazy is he calls his grandparents Grammy and Grampy, and that's what Cora and Nola call my parents, Grammy
Really?
and Grampy.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, dude, that's
He said,
it's been amazing to watch this from afar.
Yeah. Him and I were talking, and he goes, he said something about being raised as a single kid. He's like, as a single kid, he goes, but I guess I'm not a single kid anymore. I'm like, well, you were raised a single kid, for sure.
Yeah.
But it was cool for him, like he can't wait to meet Cora and Nola and Aiden, and they all feel the same way. And just, it's pretty incredible, man.
Yeah, dude,
So-
I've got a ton of questions about this, and I know we're up against it with our time stuff.
So one thing we could do is like maybe do like one question, close it out, and
Yeah.
then the next episode
can be just all of my questions about this
for this, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of doors that we can open.
bro, and
go back
each one
to.
there's not one of these that is going to be a short answer.
So let's do that.
just-
Next
there just is
episode,
that, yeah.
episode 81 is going to be just as we dive into all these. Are you good with that?
Yeah. Oh, I'm 100% right, because I want to talk more about this, and I think that there's a lot of that. I think there's a lot of parallels between so many things that happen in life, right? Whenever we are afforded a second chance, particularly if it's a second chance we didn't think we were going to get.
Yeah.
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 All right. So I'll start with, or I'll just ask this one. Now that you're a more seasoned parent, right? Is it easier for you to savor the moments that you have with Hayden now
Yes.
than it would have been? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Amanda said yesterday when we were flying out, she goes, I am convinced that God brought you, Aiden, to prepare you for your relationship with Hayden. And those two kids are so similar. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. And, yeah, I mean, just because you and I have talked about this, about how I'm trying to be even more intentional with my time with Amanda and the kids, and just like what I do with who, like, right? Like, what time am I allocating towards everything in life? And I have to look at that and prioritize it. And it's one of the things Steven and I had a business conversation recently. And I just told him, I'm like, hey man, there are things in my life I'm just starting to say no to, and I'm just not going to do and not going to be a part of it. I just can't, I just can't. I have to throttle back on these things. And I think a big thing is just being even more intentional with my time with the kids. And Yeah, it's going to be a hard one to navigate with him because he's in California.
Yeah.
And, you know, I travel a lot, and so I don't see my kids every day. But when I'm home, I'm home. And I'm at least able to see them throughout the week, at least once or if not twice. And, you know, like, man, it had been 5 weeks since I saw him last. And it went by like that.
Yeah.
I got to find a way to make it happen and get the kids out there and get him out here to Texas. And it's going to be a lot of back and forth, but I mean, there is no alternative in my mind.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not just for me. That's for him. And that's for Aiden and Cora and Nola. Like, these are very important things to them. And so now it's like, okay, find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, man.
So I'm looking forward to it. But to answer your question, yes, 100%. You know, and that's another thing God's been working in my heart is like time. It's fleeting. We have to make the most of the time that we have because like nothing's guaranteed. You know, we just don't know. Like we started off the last episode. My buddy Luke was in the Navy, was in Buds, didn't make it through, stayed in our community as an armorer, gets diagnosed with brain cancer, is told he has like 4 to 6 months to live, and like fights for like 23-ish months. And you know, like the time that he had, you don't think he wanted to be more intentional with the time with his daughters?
Yeah.
Just hard, man. It's hard, but yeah. You have to make the most of this time.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, hey, before you close it out with some final thoughts, you want me to handle wrap up so that you can figure out what you're going to say to close this out with?
Bro, it's like you read my mind.
Come on, baby.
Lily was going to talk about this.
Yeah, let's do it. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much for your support on YouTube. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Share this because it helps us out tremendously whenever you do that. And then ring the little bell so you can get notifications when new episodes come out, when we do our Q&As. If you want to follow us on social media, JP is at JP Dinnell. It's 2 N and 2 L's. And I am at Lucas Pinkard or on Instagram. Make sure that you're following Echelon Front on social media. You can go to echelonfront.com or at Echelon Front if you want to check that out. Book a workshop through echelonfront.com. You can check out some of the events that are coming up. The Muster 022 is going to be in San Antonio here in just a few weeks, so make sure that you get on the path for that. They've got Battlefield coming up at Gettysburg that's just around the corner, and a bunch of other cool stuff. And you can sign up for the Echelon Front Online Academy, which is a Monday call. And man, there were just over, I think, 100 of us that were on it this week, listening to the guys talk. It was Ward that was on there talking so much. Him and Gardner were talking, particularly in the Q&As, about like how to help people through some of the business issues and stuff that they've been having. It's just an absolute huge value that I've gotten to be a part of on Mondays.
Just
it's been a ton of fun.
Steve Ward and Jason Gardner, the two of them, just the two of them, that's right at or almost at 50 years of military experience.
It's insane.
Between the two of them.
Yeah. Anytime Steve Ward starts to talk about something, though, he stresses me out because he always does the evaluation at the muster, right? So I'm immediately like in my mode where I'm having to do my honest self-assessment just as soon as he opens his mouth. But but they're awesome. Check out Jesus in Jiu-Jitsu. There's a new podcast that come out every Tuesday, and we're regularly doing Jiu-Jitsu seminars. We got one coming up in Idaho here in a couple of weeks with our professor, Rafael Formiga. Going to be up there with Danny Ziem and my
buddy Sean Hess,
who
also follows and he comments on a lot of our stuff.
Right on. Yep. And Victor Diaz from Jocko Fuel. I guess his wife trains at that gym that we're going to be at. So
yeah, and Jackson from Jocko Fuel is going to be there as well.
Right on, man.
And Alex Stone, Seth Stone's brother.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he lives in that area.
That's very cool. Yep. So we're going to swap roles for this one. You can check out littlecattle.co.
Get that beef.
That's what I'm talking about, dog.
I like how you prompted me on that. You're like, hey, don't forget.
Hey, don't forget. Yeah. So that is a beef company that JP and Steven Little started a couple of years ago. Right now, you can get beef sticks. They've got all the beef tallow products. They've got the invigorating beef body scrub with a little bit of coffee in it, which is
beef
one of the
tallow
cooler
body
products.
scrub,
Yes,
not beef.
Yeah, not just like it's not
Ground beef.
buddy. Listen, I'd try it.
I mean,
You can try anything once. That's what I've been told.
you can also do anything once on your last day of work.
That's right. But if you guys want to be vendors for the tallow products or the beef sticks, you can contact Amanda at littlecattleco.com. We got some folks that are putting them in their gyms. We got some small supplement shops. I took some beef sticks over to Precision Sports.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they've got all the Jocko Fuel products, and I was like, you guys really need the beef sticks because they had some that they were using as another company, and they're okay. A little dry.
If you like dog food.
Yeah, it's not quite. You remember when Macho Man used to do the snap into a Slim Jim, and you could right?
Yeah.
These were not. It crumbled in your mouth. Which is not how you want a beef steak to go. No. And so they tried the Little Cattle Co. and they're like, what do we have to do? I'm like, Amanda at littlecattle.co. Shoot her a message.
I can also get them wholesale pricing options. I have those as well. I helped create those, and so we could do that. Also, I was talking to Steven, and we have some beef left, and his wife's getting ready to make some posts or send out emails for like discounts as we clear that out of the freezer. So be checking that out as well. So sorry.
Yeah. And then On the Path Printing, which is up and running. We're about to get some of the JP Dinnell t-shirts out there. The NCCs are about to get to represent in the wild, which I am so stoked about. Okay. And maybe Detective Dan and Tactical Timmy, they might be able to get some of their stuff out there. And then last but certainly not least, and those are the affiliations we've got with Jocko and Leif through Bruiser Arms, which is Yale's tactical company to put together custom packages so you can protect yourself. Also classes. Still waiting on my prototypes from Yale's new stuff with Vertex, but I know it'll get here. Uncle Leif will send those to little Larry Babbins. Finally, Origin and Jocko Fuel, man, thanks so much for y'all's support over the years, for everything that they have done with Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, for everything they've done with the JP Dinnell podcast, and so much that they've done featuring the man himself, JP Dinnell, with clean supplements. And I cannot stress enough how much all of the research surrounding creatine and what a value that is. I know I've talked about it like incessantly over the last few episodes, but the Jocko Fuel creatine is one of the cleanest, most bioavailable creatines that is on the market right now. And for the price point, it's absolutely insane. And everyone should be taking creatine. That is what all of the research is showing. Everyone should be taking creatine because of the health issues that it can help resolve, the way that it can help with your immune system, muscle retention, sleep. Some of the research has shown that they're able to have effects on arthritis and all kinds of other things, that there's been like marginal improvements with all that stuff, but prolonged that it happens. And it's awesome to just see this
like
stuff.
The brain function improvement. It helps combat the early
cognitive improvement. Yeah.
It helps with Alzheimer's disease, right?
Yeah, anything that can. So Alzheimer's and dementia, it shows that it has the potential to delay those things, and at the very least, but that it can help an improvement of all that. And it just makes you function better as a human being. It keeps your cells in a place where they're getting the nutrients that they need.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for $30 for a 3-month supply,
that's crazy.
Pretty hard to beat.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's less than a couple of movie tickets to make sure that you can keep yourself in tip-top shape.
And that's what you have to understand. That's a 3-month supply, because people are like, oh, I can use this other creatine for cheaper. I'm like, but that's a 30-day supply.
Yeah. And
take that times 3. Which number is bigger? They're like, oh.
Mathematically speaking, only one of those numbers. Yeah. And not that I recommend it, but you can dry scoop it without.
Oh yeah, it's easy.
There's some creatines that I've tried. The monohydrates when you do it, and it's gritty.
Hey, if you ever need a little, 2 dry scoops of Jocko Fuel creatine.
Yeah.
A little bit of honey.
Okay.
A little bit of water. Swish it up. Swallow, and then crack yourself a Discipline Go.
That's what I'm talking about.
Bro, you'll be seeing sounds and colors. You can smell colors.
That's a dangerous place to be.
It is.
Yeah, right. Wrap us up with some final thoughts, man.
I opened up talking about forgiveness, grace, and redemption. And you have to understand that forgiveness is for yourself. And it is a powerful thing for both parties. And if you can't forgive others, then why do you deserve forgiveness yourself? If you can't give grace to others, why do you deserve grace yourself? And I don't care where you're at in your life, redemption is a real thing. So forgiveness, grace, and redemption. We are forgiven at which we forgive others. Everyone deserves grace. And redemption is a real thing. I hope this episode has been a reminder to go do the work that is needed. Put in the effort. Build your legacy. And to never settle. This has been the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 80.